Representative Moran for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Secretary Kritenbrink, the last time you were before this committee, you refused to answer Representative Huizinga's question regarding whether you or Deputy Secretary Wendy Sherman ever delayed Uyghur Human Rights Policy Act sanctions. Months following that hearing, Reuters reported that the State Department was in fact delaying human rights sanctions. So I want to revisit that line of questions. Have Uyghur Human Rights Policy Act sanctions ever been on the competitive action calendar?
Congressman, I'll reiterate what I've said earlier. We've already taken a range of actions to hold Chinese officials to account on Xinjiang.
But I'm not asking about a range of actions.
We'll
I'm asking specifically about Uyghur Human Rights Policy Act sanctions. Have they ever been on the competitive action calendar?
As a matter of policy, we don't talk about issues before they're decided. So issues that are pre-decisional and deliberative are usually not matters that we would engage in.
Well, how long does the competitive action calendar process take typically?
Sir, I think, I mentioned earlier in response to the chairman's comment that this matter is now, in the investigatory and oversight process.
No. I'm not asking a substantive question. I'm asking a process question. Because you said you don't want to talk about it while it's ongoing. So I want to know, how long does that competitive action calendar process normally take?
We have an informal, deliberative, and pre-decisional compilation of actions under consideration, but we don't preview sanctions or share pre-decisional policy discussions. So,
well, I'm glad you read that answer, but I ask you a process question.
No, that's the answer. But
it's a process question. How long does that calendar process take, so that I know when I can come back and ask you about the substance of that issue?
No, sir. What I would say is putting together informal, deliberative, pre-decisional compilations of ideas and pre-decisional potential actions that I can't, there's not a timeline, there's not a formal process.
So let's talk about then Uyghur Sanctions Act sanctions that have already been through the process. Do you know of any that have been through the process and have completed that process? So it's not pre-decisional, it's post-decisional.
Well, no, sir. What I would say here is when we take steps such as I mentioned a moment ago, the dozens of actions, the dozens of individuals and firms, I think it's more than 51 Chinese entities, almost 60, and at least 4 PRC.
I heard you say that earlier. I'm talking about the Uyghur Human Rights Policy Act sanctions. Have any of them completed the process, and have any sanctions been issued? That's a post-decisional question, not a pre-decisional question.
I want to make sure I understand. When we impose sanctions on a Chinese official, my understanding is those sanctions remain in place until in perpetuity or until we would decide to withdraw.
True, but the decision's been made. Has a decision been made to sanction anybody under the Uyghur Human Rights Policy Act?
I don't believe that we have taken steps specifically under that act, sir.
Has anyone in the administration ever delayed any sanctions brought or sanctions issue brought before the under the competitive action calendar through the Uyghur Human Rights Policy Act? Have they delayed any of that before?
I think I would say 2 things. Again, any matter that's pre-decisional, I can't really comment on. What I would underscore, and I did mention this last time I had the honor of being before the committee, we're committed to continuing to carry out our responsibilities under U.S. law. We will continue to hold Chinese officials who are carrying out these egregious policies to account. We will use all tools at our disposal. We've used a range of GLOMAG and other.
All right, so stepping outside of any specific action, has anyone told you, from the White House to you, that you should not move forward with any sanctions under the Uyghur Human Rights Policy Act?
Sir, I'll just reiterate, we don't comment on pre-decisional matters, but we are committed to using all tools at our disposal, and we do intend to use all tools, including the act.
In my remaining time, let me switch gears. Recently, Secretary Blinken went to the People's Republic of China. When he came back, he said, quote, he did not support Taiwan independence. In fact, that seems to diverge from the Taiwanese Relations Act, which takes no explicit position on the future of Taiwan other than, quote, the expectation that the future of Taiwan will be determined by peaceful means. It sounds like to me that Secretary Blinken is changing U.S. policy as it relates to the determination of Taiwan's future. Do you know why he would make such a statement?
Congressman, respectfully, that's absolutely incorrect. It's long been a matter of U.S. policy for decades that we do not support Taiwan independence, and again, it has been for decades. Our one China policy has not changed. It's based on the Taiwan Relations Act, the 3 joint communiques, and the 6 assurances to Taiwan. Again, we have stated for decades that we do not support Taiwan independence. We also state that we absolutely oppose any attempts to change the cross-strait status quo by either side. We are committed to maintaining peace and security and to deterring precipitous action by the PRC.
Madam Chair, my time has expired.